We are the business and building department, really, of the district government. And in a lot of other jurisdictions, counties and cities around the country, business operations and building, what they would call a building department, are in separate agencies, and in the district they are combined in one operation. Our business division, we have both business licensing and professional licensing, as well as business investigations. We also have fining authority, so there are fairly stiff fines in the district for operating a business without a license. So we have an investigation arm that works hand in hand with the business license operation. We have professional licensing. We have a total of, I always forget the number, how many boards? 18 professional licensing boards, everything from the cosmetology board to the board of funeral directors and the board of accountancy. And these are professional licensing boards that govern the licensing qualifications for professional occupations under the district, in the District of Columbia. So within DCRA, and we have the professional licensing operation, the business licensing operation, and investigations. Those are the main components. We also have a weights and measures operation. These are the guys, these are inspectors that go around to any, that require you to register any weighing or measuring device you have in your business, and issue fines if you have not registered and had those devices tested. So that's sort of an overview of the business operation. And then we have permitting. So in the District of Columbia, all building permits are issued by the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, that is us. Now, there are a lot of other agencies that are involved. When you seek a building permit, a construction permit, or a permit to do any kind of alteration or repair to your home or to any commercial property. And in most cases, and many cases, you have to go through DDOT for anything having to do with public space. If you're in an historic district, you have to see the folks at the Historic Preservation Office. If you're moving more than 5 cubic feet of dirt, you have to see the folks from the District Department of the Environment. And in most cases, those people are sitting around our permit center. They have seats at our permit center operation. And inspections is our other big division, so we coordinate and schedule and have inspectors on staff that inspect all building and construction in the District of Columbia. We also have authority of any signage that goes up in the District of Columbia, and we have authority over noise regulations. So that's a quick overview of DCRA, just so you know the scope of our operations. I left out one piece, and that is the zoning administrator. Our office, the Office of the Zoning Administrator, and we have zoning technicians, are responsible for interpreting and enforcing the zoning laws of the District of Columbia and the zoning regulations. How is that important? It's very important to you if you're operating a business or thinking about opening or operating a business in the District of Columbia, to know whether the type of business you want to operate. You can operate A, out of your home, for example, B, out of a commercial space, whether or not it's zoned for that activity, that use, as we call it in zoning parlance, if that is allowed under the zoning regulations. With that, let's talk about starting a business in the District of Columbia. All right, so we're talking about the licensing process step by step. And Harold, why don't you start off?
Sure.
Right.
So one of the first steps that you guys will see as part of the licensing process is ultimately for you to determine what type of corporate entity that you like to establish. And this is probably one of the more commonly known aspects of starting a business, with figuring out whether it's a limited liability company or whether you want to operate yourself as a sole proprietor. For those type of things, you really want to make sure that it fits with what you want to do, and of course, the type of liabilities, of course, that you want to assume based on that particular operation.
I think there is some confusion about whether sole proprietors have to register their entity with DCRA, and they do, and we've spelled it out here. You do have to register as a sole proprietor if you're using a trade name and some kind of DBA, doing business as. So then, other than that, then you don't. So the next step in the process that we're trying to define and make more efficient for all of you is getting an employer identification number.
Mm-hmm.
Harold,
and the EIN is basically with the federal government, the IRS, and will allow you to actually establish a unique code or a unique identifier as it relates to your business. It doesn't fall within us as a local jurisdiction. It's with the IRS, but it's a tool that's available online.
Next step would be, and this precedes obtaining a business license, is that anyone who's operating a business and getting a business license in the District of Columbia has to have a certificate of occupancy. And it depends on where you're operating your business. If you're operating your business out of any commercial property, you're required to have a certificate of occupancy. Most commercial properties, like a commercial building somewhere and you may be thinking about tenancy in a commercial building, or first floor retail, in a commercial operation, they will have a certificate of occupancy for the building. And you can get a copy of that certificate of occupancy usually from a building manager. And usually that, especially if there are other tenants in the building, they will have an existing certificate of occupancy, otherwise known as a C of O. So when people talk about a C of O, that's what they're talking about. If you plan on operating a business out of your home, and it has to be a primary residence, this can't be somebody else's house. If you're a tenant, it can be, you can operate your business out of your apartment, or if you're renting a condo or something like that, you can operate out of that, but you have to have permission from the building owner. And this is where I think it's a good place to insert the information, a little more information about zoning. And it's the zoning regulations that determine, for example, what businesses can be operated out of a home, out of a primary residence, or an apartment. All the details of this are on our website at dcra.dc.gov, and if you just type in home occupation permit in the search box, it'll take you to a place where you can click on it. There are restrictions on how much square footage you can have of your house devoted to this business, how many employees you can have, but the most important thing that, if you think about it, is in your neighborhood. If you're in a residential neighborhood, your neighbors don't want you operating, I guarantee it, don't want you operating a business that requires a lot of people to come to the property and park there. And that's what the zoning regulations are designed to deal with. So you need a certificate of occupancy before you can get a business license to show that you're, going into a piece of property, an establishment, a building, where you can have that business, where under the zoning regulations, it is permitted to have that kind of business. The next step here is for a business tax identification number. This is self-explanatory.
So as part of the process, and what's built in is making sure that you don't owe the District of Columbia more than $100 in terms of any tax liability that you have. So that's one of the checks that will happen during the business licensing process. All those elements that we covered will ultimately to get to the actual application, because all of those pieces are pertinent to the application. There's 165 categories of business licensure, and so there's some categories that do require additional requirements. So it might be you're a pawnbroker, you have to get a criminal background check. If you're starting a restaurant, you have to get a DOH inspection of your actual place. And all of those things have to be submitted as part of your basic business license application. So it would depend on the category, but we have all of these things listed out on the website as it relates to different steps and the pieces that are required.